Hey, welcome back, everyone, to another exciting episode of Primetime News. We have so much news to go over this week. Your head is going to spin. Now, we've got important eBay information to go over, including some things that they have on their platform that they should not have. We have some important new eBay regulations for sellers that you need to pay attention to by a certain deadline, or your account could get shut down. So stay tuned for that. We have some important technology updates. We have primetime crime series. We've got some news on the lighter side. But before we get into all of that, we've got a really important but sad story to report on out of Florida. All right, so this is a sad story that brings us to Largo, Florida, and you could see this man here wading in the water. His name is Sean Thomas McGinnis. There's a little closer picture of him. And the reason why he is wading in the water is that he is looking for frisbees because there's a golf course nearby and people would throw their frisbees back and forth, and eventually some of them would go loose and fly through the air and they'd wind up in the water or around that marshy area there. So he would go by, pick them up, and then he would resell them to make money. That was really his main job, and that's one of the places he would go and get these frisbees. Well, he knew, apparently, according to the article, that there were these danger signs around, that there were alligators all around where he was hunting for the frisbees. And unfortunately, the last time he was seen was wading through the water just like this. And then the next thing you know, no one knows where the poor guy is. And they eventually found him, and he was dismembered by an alligator. Three of his limbs were missing, and he was killed searching for these frisbees in alligator infested waters. So if he was aware of the danger of what was there, you are led to wonder why he kept doing this. One reason possibly would be because he just didn't feel anything would happen to him, because he kind of felt a false sense of security. He had been doing it for a while. He kind of felt he knew the area and just thought it wasn't going to happen to him since it hasn't happened to him yet. But unfortunately, it's one of those things. You tempt fate too many times, and eventually, it could come back to you. There are some people who like to live on the edge. They like to live dangerously, so they get kind of a rush out of it. And there's some people who do things that are so dangerous that almost have like a death wish. Although that's some horrible way to die, is to be eaten by an alligator or a shark or something like that. So the reason why I am bringing this up as the lead story here is because this is just something that is so unnecessary to happen to someone, and it's just so gruesome. And all to find frisbees to sell for free to resell, just not worth it. And it just leads to more of a general discussion too, in terms of just things people do in general that can be dangerous to try to find free stuff that they could then go and sell somewhere. Prime example of that would be dumpster diving. There's lots of people who do dumpster diving and find stuff there, but you have to be very careful what you're doing, because it could be a real dangerous situation, especially if you're going around at nighttime. There could be some, criminal activity going on back there behind the stores. You can wind up getting caught up in it if you're not like with a friend or a group of friends. You don't have proper lighting, makes it all the more dangerous. Sometimes I've had stories before where I've reported on people getting stuck. They're leaning over trying to get into the dumpster or trying to get into a donation bin at a thrift store. And I've even heard of at least one person I know of who's gotten killed from that happening. So, point is that you just have to keep general safety tips in mind. I have a video that I did once called How Not to Get Killed when you're trying to find stuff on Craigslist. So you got to be careful. Where are you going for private picks? Are you approaching a house where it looks like this is very dangerous and, not a safe situation? Don't tempt fate when you're trying to find stuff to source and reselling. And in general, I would just advise people to stick with more traditional stuff. Yeah, it might not always be free, but you could get stuff that's generally pretty low enough that, you're going to make such a good margin on it. Why take these kind of risks? So I'm sad to hear about what happened to this man, but by leading with this story, hopefully at least something good could come out of it, in terms of some folks may be hearing this the next time you're maybe think of doing something that's potentially dangerous. Maybe you think twice about it. Don't do it, because it's just not worth tempting fate. All right, while that last story made me sad, this story makes me mad. I, like many others watching this, are fed up with the number of mass shootings that are occurring in the United States and how easy it is for people to access not only the weapons that are used in these cases, predominantly the AR-15, but also accessories that make these guns shoot faster and silence them so that they are not detected as easily by law enforcement. Now, eBay has a policy that you cannot go on their site, for example, and purchase an AR-15. And they've done a good job with preventing things like that. If you go, for example, and look on eBay and you search for AR-15 and even AR-15 accessory, you're going to see that what you're going to find here are basically model toy guns, not actually the real thing. However, as this article in the LA Times goes over, what people are doing to avoid detection by eBay is they're basically using code words to get, or even code numbers, as I'll explain in a moment, to get these listings by eBay. So, for example, instead of calling something an AR-15, they'll call it an AR, or instead of calling something an AK-47, they'll call it an AK. One of the other things that they'll use are numbers to represent the calibers of the cartridges used by some of these weapons. So one of the more common ones would be .223 or 5.56. Now I'm going to show you an example right here of what I'm talking about. This is a current listing to the Dead Air Sandman Nomad front cap 5.56 mm suppressor adapter. You notice that right here in the title, it says nothing at all about it being something that could be used with an AR-15 or any other kind of weapon like that. And down here, same thing. It does describe what it does. This front cap optimizes your Sandman silencer by reducing the front cap size to your caliber. For example, the 5.56 front cap greatly reduces first round pop and decreases the muzzle reading by roughly 1 to 3 decibels. Well, if we go online and we look at Reddit, which is a site sometimes used by some unsavory characters and people who have gone on to commit some mass shootings in the past, you could see here that it says, just started my wait for a Sandman S, meaning silencer, and want to use it on my AR-15s and AR-10. How often do these things come in stock? So people looking for these types of things. This type of stuff should not be allowed on eBay, and technically it's not, but yet people consistently are able to list these types of things, as you saw. And not only are they listing it, you could see here, there's more than 10 of them available. So that's crazy. It's too easy for people to access these types of things anonymously through eBay. You could get these things by stealing someone's credit card, identity theft, those types of things, and make it harder to trace than compared to someone who is walking, for example, into an actual gun shop and might have to give like identification and that type of stuff to make a purchase. So this type of stuff can't be on there. And the other problem is that the LA Times or any other journalists, now I'm glad that they did this, but they shouldn't be the ones that are having to police all of this. eBay should have a dedicated team of people who are policing this, or policing this much better than they are, because there's way too many ways to get around it. And every time the LA Times brought one of these types of listings up to eBay, they then went and removed it. But there's so many of them that are mentioned in this article, it just leads you to wonder, how could so many things keep getting through? All right, now another area where eBay needs to do a much better job has to do with the illegal sale of ivory on the platform, which is obtained from killing elephants and then taking the tusks and turning it into the ivory. Now, eBay banned this about a decade ago, yet there's still a ton of it on the platform. We know this because there's a group that did a study, and it's one of the focuses of this article here, and they purchased items that looked like they were ivory. Now, how do we know that they look like ivory? Well, and you could see here's the researchers here. Ivory has these telltale lines or striations. They're called Schrager lines, and they're growth lines in the tusk, and they could be seen when ivory is carved, just like this. Now, this was an item that recently was listed for sale on eBay. Now, they're not typically calling it ivory because ivory will get it flagged, just like if you put AR-15 under actual guns, that's going to get flagged. So, the main code term that people are using to get around this is they're calling it bovine bone. Now, bovine technically refers to cattle. And, that's not what an elephant is. So you're getting around it by using, a fake term to make something sound like a cow, when it really isn't. And so people calling it cow bone, but all of these items that you see here, when they were tested, they tested out to be ivory. Now, it's not just eBay. There's other platforms where this is happening. It's happening on Instagram. It's happening on Facebook, for example. But eBay is the main site where it's happening. This is another example right here. What percentage? Well, about 632 pieces, I believe, were purchased. And of that, 632. Of that, over 500 of them came back positively scientifically tested to be ivory, elephant tusk ivory. So that if we just put the number at 500 at a minimum. Now they said it's over 500, but so we don't know which number to pick. So let's just pick 500. That's 79%. That's crazy. And you could still go on eBay right now. Right now, look at this. 4,300 results plus for bovine bone. Now, that study I just talked about was done in eBay UK. Could you imagine what it's like in the US? I mean, it's probably worse. And this shows you how many items actually sold in the last 90 days. This is not just ones that completed, these are ones that are completed and sold. 1,768 sales. Now, eBay could easily crack down on this. You've got to do a search for bovine bone, and you've got to have a way. eBay has all these ways that they could technologically analyze things. Have a way to better look at the striations, look for those lines in the bone, and that could be a way to flag something. But this is ridiculous. This type of thing can't happen. It is not good for a platform to have bans. Of course, you can't be perfect, but this is just way beyond what should be going on. So hopefully these stories give greater attention to these problems, and eBay starts cracking down a little harder on this stuff, or much harder. All right, very important information for those of you who sell internationally on eBay, whose packages may go out to Germany. If so, eBay expects that as of July 1st of this year, that you have met Germany's requirements for the German Packaging Act, or if you do not meet the requirements, as you can see, eBay says right here, your eBay account may be restricted. Now, lots of things can occur through a restriction. That's a very general term, but that can include having your account shut down. Whether it's shut down may depend on how many times you violate shipping things over there to Germany without meeting the requirements. They have very specific packaging requirements when sending things over. And in addition to that, you do have to have a license now through Germany, and you have to be registered in their system, which is called Lucid. And so there's additional information as well. But if you just want to break it down to the registry part and then the licensure part, what they don't tell you right here is that you have to click on this link to find out. But when you go over here, you will see eBay has partnered up with this other program to help you get this license and to get registered. And you could see here, you even get a nice, how nice of eBay, you even get a nice little 5% discount off of your license. Which it says it's 39 euro. I'm not sure exactly what that translates into, but you can go do the conversion. But for most people, I think, who are watching this, this is not going to be worth it to go through all of the hassle of getting a license, getting registered, paying a fee, making sure you package everything appropriately. Just not worth it. Definitely not for me. I am not going to be doing this, but you do need to be aware if you happen to be a seller who has a lot of stuff going out to Germany and it financially makes sense for you, you have to make sure that you comply with these requirements. So selling internationally is not going to be as easy as it used to be. Now, one of the things it doesn't say here, and I know a lot of people are going to have this question: what if I use the global shipping program? Well, eBay makes no mention of any exception to the global shipping program. Now it could be that eventually by July 1st, that maybe eBay does something internally that absolves sellers from needing to do this, but it doesn't look like that since they are actively encouraging their sellers to go and get this specific license. So if GPS or GSP global shipping program was going to cover all this, I don't know why they would be sending their sellers over to this. So if there's any update on that, I will definitely let you know in a future news broadcast. But for right now, what I would suggest doing, you have to go into your actual listing setup for where you ship, and you have to go and make sure you actually exclude Germany as a country where you are going to ship things to. But wait, there's more. I was just talking about Germany there, but there's a new directive called the EU or European Union Omnibus Directive that Etsy is now advising all sellers on the platform that they have to comply with. And this right now, Etsy is just saying this, but I am not going to be surprised at all if we hear very soon that eBay sellers and sellers on other platforms are going to have to comply with this as well. So it's all about consumer protection in Europe. There are people in Europe who are getting their deliveries from other countries and they're not happy with what they're getting and they want to return it for various reasons. But then they find out that the seller has a no return policy and they can't return and they're stuck. So to protect consumers, the EU has come up with this directive. And so basically, what it means is that when they coordinate now with these e-commerce platforms, they're telling them your sellers who sell internationally, they need to be classified now as a trader, trader, someone who trades. And also they have to have a 14-day return policy in place. At a minimum, they have to have that. And so, that's going to be tough for people, for example, who sell internationally but don't have a return policy. You're going to be forced into that now if you want to sell over to Europe. Now, if you don't want to sell over to Europe, then you could get an exemption from having to classify yourself like this. You just have to say, I'm not selling to Europe anymore. So, like I said, the world is changing right before our eyes. All right, now another thing to keep an eye out for is that eBay is actively encouraging sellers in Australia to advertise their auction listings. That's something that never used to be the case. eBay originally started off as an all auction site, and when you would post your auction, as I did, 20 plus years ago, you got great visibility from it. And even when they started out with promoted listings, auctions were not something that you were able to promote. But keep in mind that eBay often tests out these changes to policy in other countries first. They use these other countries sort of like a test market. And then, depending on the results, these things come out in the US. So keep an eye out for this. As much as eBay's been doubling down on promoted listings and bringing in so much extra revenue for it, I would not be surprised if you see this in the US very soon. Very important Etsy update here. There's a purchase protection program that they came out with for sellers and buyers. I talked about it previously, but now we have some more details on how it works. And basically, what is going to happen here is that Etsy is going to cover buyer refunds for orders up to $250 on any case arising from what they call a qualifying order. So you have to go read the specifics in terms of what would qualify it as one of these orders. But the most important take home point that you want to know from all of this is that for any dispute about the listing accuracy, the Etsy purchase protection protects sellers for orders that match the listing description and photos when a buyer claims it doesn't. So that part is going to sound good to sellers. However, here's the area where you can run into problems. Etsy does not cover orders that differ from the listing description. So we strongly recommend using accurate photos and descriptions when listing an item. So what they don't say here, for example, is let's say you had a clothing item or a book or collectible where you photographed the front really well. Maybe you photographed the sides really well, but let's just say you didn't bother to take a picture of the back. and the buyer claims that the back has a rip on it or a stain or some kind of defect. What this sort of implies to me is that if you don't have that photo there and the buyer is claiming something and Etsy can't go to your listing and verify it or not, then you're gonna lose out. I think that's what that means. So I would make sure that you are taking pictures of all sides of your items for Etsy so that you can protect yourself. And we'll see if something like this starts spilling over into other platforms. All right. Well, USPS is doubling down on its devotion to ground shipping services. As of May 1st, 2022, they shifted all first class mail to ground services. In the past, if they had packages that were going a far distance, let's say coast to coast, they would ship that via air. But then, after looking at it, they said this costs too much money and it's not as efficient as going ground. Now, what they want to do is take the Parcel Select service, which has always been a ground service, and it's an economy service. So that means it's going to take longer for it to get to its final destination and supposedly be cheaper in the process, although it hasn't always been the case. Sometimes it actually costs more than priority mail, which goes air, and that doesn't make any sense. But they want to now move this to a medium speed shipping service. And so they basically what they're trying to do is consolidate the first class shipping with the ground shipping services and kind of align all of this package flow together. But the PRC, the Postal Regulatory Commission, took a look at this and said they think this is going to lead to service and operation disruptions. And they also think that this could lead to even higher costs. USPS keeps increasing the cost. It keeps saying it's going to keep going up and up and up. So, really, we don't really need another thing that's going to keep jumping the costs up. They're probably going to USPS is going to get to do what they want to do, regardless of what the PRC has to say about this. So ultimately, we'll just have to see if this is effective or not. And, I'll keep tabs on it as usual. All right, so we've got our primetime crime stories coming up now, and we're going to start with a Fort Bragg Army officer and his wife who were allegedly involved in this multi-year scheme to obtain military equipment and then quote unquote resell it. I mean, they weren't really reselling it because they stole it, but they were selling it allegedly. And they are alleged to have made $2 million in profit over this 4-year period. The types of items that they allegedly sold were gun barrels, holsters, magazines, electric guitars, bayonets, gym equipment, and night vision goggles, plus other things. I always say that, stealing from your employer is a really bad idea. You're eventually going to get caught with it. I mean, stealing from anybody is, but your employer is eventually going to catch you, then you're going to lose your job. And stealing from the military has to be one of the dumbest things to do because number one, those types of items are generally really dangerous if they get into the hands of the wrong person. And also, that stuff is generally well cataloged. And so eventually somebody is going to notice that this stuff is missing and put the dots together. They might not notice it at first, and then you might get away with it actually for a couple of years, but eventually it's going to add up and you're going to get caught. All right, now here's a story that's going to drive a lot of people crazy who resell because a lot of people have the experience of submitting a claim to USPS for insurance and USPS does everything possible to avoid paying out the insurance claim, right? Well, in this instance, a man and his girlfriend and her two brothers are accused of filing 451 false insurance claims with USPS that USPS actually paid out a lot of them. What they were doing is they were alleging that they were shipping these iPhone 8s and that the iPhone 8s were getting lost or that they were getting damaged. And this happened over several months. USPS estimates that they lost about $134,000 in this scheme where they paid out a bunch of these claims. The reason why these people got caught is that, and the average amount that a claim, by the way, was $297, is number one, they were always using kiosks. So that was a pattern. They were minimizing being involved with interacting with a person. So that's always suspicious. And number two, is that they were filing the claims a lot of times, and this again gets back to greed, on the very same day that they allegedly shipped out the packages, even though they actually weren't shipping out packages. So they were still getting payouts on stuff, even though they weren't even shipping out the phones. But USPS or someone there put it together because like, wait a minute, you couldn't even know that this is lost or that it was damaged because you're making the claim on the same day. Two dumb schemes back to back, resulting in multiple arrests and likely prison time if these individuals are convicted. So just dumb, dumb, dumb all the way around. All right, I'm not going to go into this story in much detail because I've talked about it in other broadcasts, but this is just to update people that the eBay vault is now officially open. This is a place where you would go to trade and store right now trading cards that have a $750 value or more. That's not going to apply to a lot of people watching this, but eventually look for this to broaden as they decrease the requirement to about $250 in card value and then start expanding it into other items. All right, now definitely be on the lookout for this item. I've come across this many times at estate sales. You have to now definitely be on the lookout for iPods. The interest in this has spiked big time after they have officially been discontinued. I still have my iPod. I love it. I'm not selling it, but that just goes to show you how popular they are. They really revolutionized things when they came out. You really didn't need a cassette player anymore or, a CD man or anything like that. You could store so much music on one device and just select it. It's an awesome device. I still recommend them if you get them, but the prices went up 372% in the days after the discontinuation announcement. So be on the lookout for these. Again, you will see them laying around at estate sales, flea markets, sometimes garage sales. Just make sure they're a real thing and not fakes. All right, and some lighter stories. Amazon has released their new virtual try-on shoes. So you could try on your shoes digitally before you buy them. Amazon put out a little video that kind of looks like this here. So it's not going to tell you what size is the proper size, but you could basically, point it down at your feet and you could see what it would look like on your feet through your phone. So that's pretty cool. And that's what Amazon is doing now. All right. For all of the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial observers, there's a guy who actually went out to the actual trial and he was observing the jury every day and taking notes in a notebook. And what he eventually decided to do was to take this notebook and put it up for sale on eBay and try to raise money for charity. Now, as you can see here, it actually did sell for $14,969 after 142 bids. Now, what we don't know is if it was actually paid for. Be great if it was paid for because all of the money is supposed to go to Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. If I get a follow-up that actually shows it was paid for, if it wasn't, I'll let you know. But good cause, interesting item to sell. Hopefully it worked out. A quick update on the Real Real, which is a high-end fashion reselling platform. So this is a place you would go, for example, to sell your Louboutin shoes, make some good money on it. I know a small percentage of resellers who use it. Um, it hasn't done well this year, stock wise, for sure. The stock has gone down 74%. So, follow the money with this announcement. The founder and CEO is out of there, and that has led the stock to go up 5.5%. So they are moving forward to the future. They have a new CEO, Robert Julian. We'll see if that helps, but I don't know. It doesn't look good for the Real Real to me. I don't expect them to be around too much longer. Let me know what you think. Do you think they're going to survive or go kaput? All right, quick update on the one of one LeBron James triple logo man basketball card that was pulled at that Whatnot auction I showed you a few episodes ago towards the end. This is considered to be the most valuable modern day basketball card, estimated to be worth millions of dollars. Well, we're going to see how much money it's actually worth because the people who won the card now have arranged for it to be sold on auction through Golden. So if you want to follow what's going on with that, you could go to the site and check it out. I'm sure I'll be reporting back in the future on what this card ultimately sold for. All right, now in our inspirational story of the week, make sure you check inside those seat cushions. There was a woman who purchased a couch off of Craigslist, and when she got it home and looked inside those cushions, she found $36,000 of cash in there. You know, couches are one place to look, but also make sure you're looking underneath cupboards, inside of painting frames. There's all sorts of places where people would hide money. This lady who found it, she contacted the people who she got the couch from, let them know about what she found inside, and to reward her for her find, you could see it was all in these little envelopes there. They gave her $2,200 in cash. So that was good for her. I'm sure she's glad she did the honest thing. But what an incredible find inside that couch. All right, everyone. Well, that's a wrap. I hope you liked another week of primetime news. Make sure you let me know what your favorite news story is down below. I'm not going to throw my book this week because I'm tired of all these explosions at the end of the video. So I'm just going to take my Mountain Dew bottle cap and just toss it over there. And, what can happen from that? What?